What are the biggest postpartum recovering myths?
Yeah, that's a good one. I would definitely say the idea that you're totally fine at 6 weeks. Like, do nothing for the first month and a half and then cleared. That to me is like so backwards. The other thing is that you should be doing 100 Kegels a day.
Say more about that.
Oh, man. It was, I don't know that I've heard that very recently, but there were years and years where I would have women, they would either come to us from, just trying to self-treat, like Googling and Instagramming their treatment plan, or they would have seen another pelvic floor therapist or taken a program online. They had this impression that they needed to be doing a massive volume of pelvic floor contractions. And so those muscles are postural. So you're using your pelvic floor muscles when you go from sit to stand, while you're standing, when you're walking. So they should not be trained at that pace. The other thing is then we saw the pendulum swing where we used to see women with weak pelvic floors. Now we were seeing a trend of tight pelvic floors. And it could have been a result of this advice getting all over where women were thinking, I have to do 100 Kegels a day just to stay ahead of the game.
And for those women who don't know, because a lot of women know, but some of them don't know, what are Kegels and what is that?
Yep. So that's named after the gentleman who founded the pelvic floor contraction. He's known for studying that group of muscles and coining the lift or the contraction of your pelvic floor.
And is that done with, is there any instruments used? Is it how does that work?
Yeah. So largely speaking, it is just a squeeze of the muscle. So there's no instruments, there's no gadgets needed. Are you familiar with the term glute squeeze? Like just squeezing your butt cheeks together? Or like if you bite your teeth down, that's just a contraction of your masseter muscle on either side of your jaw. So a pelvic floor contraction or a Kegel is just connecting to that space down there, squeezing it.
I had a misconception that had something to do with those little eggs that they train women. I don't know, I've seen some women talk about getting that muscles trained, and they use something like an egg that looks like an egg, and they use it in their pelvic floor to kind of squeeze and release. I had a total misconception about it. I thought that's what it meant.
So you absolutely can. I've heard them called yoni eggs.
Yeah. Those are those.
Yeah. So you can use tools. So there can be the egg, there's vaginal weights, dilators, though you normally don't use those for strengthening per se. I have on occasion. But if you go through phases of just doing the squeeze, it'd be like doing active range of motion of your arm. You can get tired after you do 10 of these, and then maybe you can do 30 a day. Eventually, you're going to need to put a weight to really take yourself to the next level.
And what happens if it's too tightened? Because you went through that, and then I interrupted you.
Yeah. So we would get women with tight pelvic floors. Tight pelvic floors can cause leaking. It can cause pain with intercourse, poor pressure management. You can actually have worsening prolapse if your pelvic floor becomes too tight. So it really is just because there's an imbalance of your muscles.
Okay.
Muscles should have a certain amount of length, so I can bend my elbow this far and straighten my elbow this far because my bicep has appropriate length. But if you fracture your humerus and say you're stuck in a cast for 6 to 8 weeks, you take that cast off, I'm going to be able to move my arm like this far. Because it's
limited
tight.
range.
Yeah. You hold a joint like this, the capsule is going to tighten, the muscle's going to tighten, everything's going to accommodate because you're only telling it I need to move like this. So when you do too many pelvic floor contractions, or if you don't have great posture, like if you tuck your butt under, so if you sit on your tailbone, or if in standing you kind of slouch back, you can shorten your pelvic floor. It literally is just if your tailbone and your pubic bone are closer to each other than they should be, you will get a tight pelvic floor. You're creating the environment for a shortened muscle group. I see it visually when I compare it to my shoulders. So if you have a tight pelvic floor and I say, go ahead, contract, you're like, I don't know, am I contracting? Whereas when we go in there and we do the bone work and the soft tissue work and we lengthen all that space, then we say, okay, go ahead and squeeze my finger. And they go, whoom. And their eyes open up big. They're like, whoa, I did it. You're like, yes, because your muscles need a certain amount of
range,
distance for the actin and myosin fiber. They have to overlap and then shorten, and that's a muscle contraction. So if they're already overlapping so much and you try to contract, they're like, I don't go anywhere. Same as if they're too long, they won't overlap and shorten. So yeah, tight pelvic floor can be a problem. And it's like a little more visually understandable why a tight pelvic floor would lead to pain with intercourse, because we need to dilate and relax to allow penetration.
Wow.
And so if we're tight, it's not going to go in.
Oh my God. So
Yeah.
of course they're going to have pain.
Yeah, it can be painful, and it can just feel tight and be unsuccessful. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, so having a tight pelvic floor. So if this first layer, this sphincteric muscle, it's a circular muscle, needs to relax and expand to allow for penetration. I mean, I'm talking even to put a tampon in, it
Okay.
has to have a certain amount of space here, right? So just physically, you can imagine that tampon, let's say, cannot go in through the hole if the hole is too small.
Got it.
The tampon is bigger than the hole, not successful. So we have control over how big this space is. The muscles are under voluntary control. They will also respond to involuntary things like poor safety, or if you need to run, it will tighten up. You know, people are called like, oh, you're a tight ass, right? Like you have this tendency to kind of clench. So if this space is tight, an erect penis cannot come in. If we can connect to that space, breathe to it, so like you can actually place your hand on your outer genitalia, you should feel it soften and expand into your hands a little bit on inhale. You can also do mental imagery, like it's opening like a flower or melting into your hand. We're aiming for softening and lengthening connection to this space. You could, on your own, go from a tight pelvic floor to a relaxed, open pelvic floor. If you don't, you might need a physical therapist to go in there and help you.
Wow.
Move the bones, release the soft tissue, stretch your hips. Like the hip, this is your hip joint, and that's a hip muscle, and this is your pelvic floor. Like
they're
they
interconnected.
are so intimately connected.
So this is where the conversation of physical therapy can definitely help if you have pain during intercourse. So you
Absolutely.
don't even have to be pregnant. You don't even have to have had kids. This
Right.
is just like for having kids, you
Yeah.
can definitely take advantage of this.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And it's so sneaky because pain you'll usually talk to your doctor about, but if you're just tight and you can't have sex and it feels like he's hitting a wall, you might not know that, like, oh, is this a medical thing? Like, what's happening here? So when it's silent but still unsuccessful, that has been confusing for some of our patients.